we sat in front of a computer with one of the engineers. We looked at the internal workings of it, and then we decided on a rough housing shape and size that would fit, 3D printed it, and tried it out. Welcome to the Electro-optics podcast. We are in Sweden at the moment.
Yes.
I've come all the way from South Africa, so we taken the time to get together, and we're going to have a discussion about product development and the Titan 3K, which is one of our new rangefinders, and just kind of run everyone through the process of
how it came to
be from the very beginning with the 3D printed housing to final product. But first, Henrik can introduce himself. I'll say a few words about myself, and then we'll get going.
Yeah, I'm Henrik with electro-optics, and we're here in this headquarters, European headquarters, where we have our office, CNC shop. We do most of the 3D work here as well, and we also have the warehouse where we send out our products throughout Europe and the world, basically.
Yeah, it's an amazing facility. I always love coming up here. Yeah. We've been hunting this week in very cold conditions, which I'm not used to.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing experience, and it's always good to
go out and test the
take stuff that we're making and go out and actually use it. We did that last year in South Africa. This year I came into Sweden.
Now we're doing it again.
Makes us, one of our strengths as a team is like being able to come from very different backgrounds, share information, and make stuff like this. So the Titan 3K, as I mentioned, one of our new rangefinders. We've actually got two. We've got the Helix 1500, which, as you can see, is quite a bit smaller. If you're just listening in, we've got a bunch of props here today, but for the guys watching on video, you'll probably get a much better understanding. Helix 1500 is our small hunting rangefinder, extremely lightweight. It's got the OLED display like the Titan 3K. It's got amazing ballistic function where
packed
it can
with lots
connect
of
to your phone. It's essentially got most of the same features, but it's made for ranging at hunting distances, whereas this one can go way beyond. And the whole idea when we started with this is that we don't want to do Me Too products.
No, we thought that if we're just going to do another vertical rangefinder out there, there's no edge to that. We thought like, how can we do something else that, to diversify from that and do a product that we feel that we really bring something else to the market, but also something we would want ourselves to use. So we took a good look on what's out there, and then based out of that, we went to form factor. We looked at range, like how far should it range, ballistic, no ballistic, and all of those factors when we went to the drawing board, just discussing on what we wanted it to become.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned drawing board, because that's kind of where everything starts.
Yeah,
we discuss what we feel the market needs. We discuss how we can meet those needs, and then we start putting down design criteria.
Yeah.
So for the Helix 1500, it's a little bit more straightforward, because with the weight and size restrictions, and with not needing to really push the limits for what hunters need, we were able to do it differently to most people with the ballistic functions and the way we've done that.
And the TOLED display mainly.
Yeah, but with this one, it kind of left the door open with fewer weight and size restrictions to really try some new stuff that no one else has really done before. So what we did was we decided that we wanted a rangefinder that could range really far.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, within the legal limits of the types of lasers and the amount of energy and wavelength that they're putting out, we needed to have an optical system and laser system that was a little bit larger.
Yeah. So the form factor came into play. If you want to do a horizontal or a vertical one, and then also looking at the market, there are mainly vertical ones. Yeah. So that's why we thought we weren't 100% sure. So when we started looking at how big does the system need to be able to range that far, we thought it will be possible to do it a vertical one, but then we also realized that, well, depending on people's hands, big hands, small hands, and also when you range far, you want to be able to hold it very still and stable, and then you want to do it with two hands.
Yeah.
So that's one of the main thing why we went with the horizontal one, is because of both like to get a powerful enough sensor and laser, and then also the battery. We can put a bigger battery in there as well, so it lasts longer. You can add the USB-C charging, which we did. So it's a lot of pros when you don't have to think so much about weight and size.
Yeah. So yeah, with that design criteria, we knew what optical and electronic system we were going to use and what size it would be.
Yeah.
The bigger lenses basically allow more of the laser that's bouncing off to be picked up and then processed. And that the processing is a really big part of it, because the laser bounces off an object, comes back, and has to be interpreted by the processor inside to see if it's an actual object or whether it's just residual light coming back. So it ended up being a bigger unit, but we had the option, if we fitted it vertically and try to fit a little battery in, firstly, we're running out of battery really quick.
Yeah.
And secondly, to fit a battery, there's no obvious place to put it without making it really awkward. So the horizontal one allowed us to put a really big 18650 battery in the side and actually make it, as you mentioned,
USB-C chargeable.
Yeah, USB-C chargeable and more ergonomic. You can have it mounted on a tripod and still cup your hands over it. Just a naturally an awesome design. So that brought us to
what we have in front of us.
What we have in front of us. We've got 7 samples or prototypes, starting with something very roughly 3D printed to the final product. And I came here a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
came to Sweden.
Yeah, and we did this first one.
Yeah, we sat in front of a computer with one of the engineers.
And
we looked at the internal workings of it, and then we decided on a rough housing shape and size that would fit. 3D printed it and tried it out.
This is the first 3D printed version of the rangefinder we've been working on. This is going to be the 2000 meter one, and we decided to go with the horizontal instead of the vertical one, because it has to have room for all the features we want. This is just out of the 3D printer, and we're already seeing that it's going to be pretty big, so we want to make sure it's as ergonomical as humanly possible.
All these parts, when we mass produce them, have to either be machined out of magnesium or aluminum, or they've got to be plastic molded, and all of that is quite expensive and time consuming. So 3D printing allows us to very quickly actually get a visual and physical representation of how it's going to feel and how big it's going to be, and from there we can make decisions on where to put the stippling, where to put little cutaways for your fingers, where to put the buttons so that a left-handed person and a right-handed person can use it, and kind of see where all these bits and pieces are going to fit in. Where's the battery going to fit? Where's the all the optical systems going to fit? And that can help us figure out the best way to actually fit all the stuff in, because this is going to be a pretty dense unit. We're really excited to keep moving forward on this one.
When you actually feel the size of it in your hands and the shape, and then you're gonna be like, oh, I want to improve this. Although can we make it thinner? Can we make it thicker? How's this gonna work? You immediately get all those ideas. So that's one of the really good things about having 3D printers and designers in-house. Is just you can do changes on when it comes to R&D and design work pretty quickly. You can just know, I want to change this, and it's change the shape of this, add this, and that's basically how it started. When you were here 1.5 years ago.
And because if you, let's say for example, you're making something out of aluminium, you can make a sample on the CNC machine out of aluminium, because the only difference is you're changing the programming of how that machine works most of the time. But when it comes to stuff like this, which is normally made with a mold, like a plastic mold, it's incredibly expensive to make that mold. So you only start making the mold towards the end of the process. Most of it at the beginning, when you're trying to figure out the shape and the texture, is 3D printing. And you can imagine 10, 15 years ago, before 3D printers, that this would have been a much more challenging process.
Yes, and CNC machining also, it takes some, it goes a lot into programming the machines and everything. It takes more time, is more expensive. I mean, the 3D printing is, it's cheap in comparison.
It is.
And the manpower and the time and everything. So it's very, very useful, a very useful tool to use. And then as you want to make changes, as you know, we're pretty quick-footed, and so once we get something started but then also why the project takes such a long time is once you've decided that mold takes some time to produce, they're going to do it, and then they're going to fit everything in to make like the first actual working sample.
Yeah.
And that takes quite some time, and then it goes easier and easier.
Yeah. So the process we followed is we spent some time looking at the first 3D printed sample. You instantly, I remember you so clearly picking it up and instantly saying, "Where do I put my thumbs?"
Yeah.
So it's like little things like that you don't think of when you're looking at a 3D render.
No.
When you pick it up, you start asking those questions and so the next step from that one, which was very, very rough, was to fine tune it, and we started asking questions like, okay, well, if this is where your hands go, where do we need rubberizing to give it grip?
Yeah.
Where do we want to have buttons?
Yeah.
Where can your finger easily reach a button?
So you can use it with left hand, right hand, and reach everything. Even though you've got small hands, it can't be too big or too small. So you can actually hold it properly. This 3D sample got grooves for your fingers, but we ditched that. We realized you don't need it because people have different size hands and might hold it differently. So we removed that for the next 3D printed sample. And from the first one to the second one, we added like a small groove on the underside, so you can, when you hold it with one hand, you can easily find it with your thumb, so you get some extra grip.
Yeah, so I mean that was already a big improvement, and then sample 3 was essentially what we decided to do once we refined the ergonomics of it.
Yeah,
and we sort of, okay, this is what we think our final plastic molding products can look like.
Yeah,
but let's print it out. Let's double check that everything's correct. We've got a spot here for a tripod mount.
Yeah.
We've got cutouts here for the logo plate and for the buttons, and just kind of ran over it, make sure we're happy with it. USB-C port, place for a lanyard, all these things now added, and we got to the point where we said, okay, this looks good, let's take it to another step.
Yeah.
And then it started getting interesting because we were able to see our display for the first time.
Yeah.
This
that we
one,
also designed by ourselves, by the way.
Yeah. Let's actually rewind and talk about the display before we even get to this, because it's I can tell you, like, without a doubt, that many optics companies just take generic displays that are used by a lot of other manufacturers.
Yeah,
you can use that. If you
Yeah.
go to any outdoor store and you pick up a bunch of different rangefinders, you'll often see they have the exact same displays.
Yeah,
some of them even have like golf icons in them, like a golf flag or all that stuff.
There's a lot of different, especially in the cheaper segment with the LCD screens. You can see that they haven't spent, but it's depending on at the price point and what you want to do. It's up to each brand how they want to do it. But we felt that if we're gonna do it, and if we're gonna have ballistic in it, we have to do a good screen that's usable, that we would want, like what we would want if we bought one. So, and we didn't want the LCD. It's an old technology. We wanted to do more than that. We wanted to have a very clear display. So we researched and we found out that the OLED it's up there. It's what we want. So the thing with that is that we sat down and was like, okay, how do we want the screen to look? Because you can't get the screen, like we had to do tooling, and tooling is very expensive, especially for technology like that. So we had to be like, okay, so what do we want to go into it? Like how do we want the ballistics to be displayed? Where do we want the icons to be? So it was kind of a process. We had a lot of meetings about this, and we were pretty clear from the start that we wanted the top half of this to be completely free of any icons or anything like that. So you have a clear field of view from like the middle and up. So you can even use it for spotting or finding instead of taking up your binoculars. But basically same thing as you do in a rifle scope, where you have most of the measurements, like a Christmas tree reticle, you have that like from the middle and down.
Yeah. Yeah, I think our main motivation of doing the display ourselves was that we knew that a ballistic rangefinder would be very information rich.
Yeah.
And we wanted to make sure that not only did we display the information in a way that's like easy to understand and doesn't clutter everything up.
Yeah.
But the way that the OLED displays are programmed, we can control what's on at certain times. So for example, we decided that we wanted to have a ballistic mode where you've got all this information at your fingertips with elevation and windage displayed at the same time, as opposed to flashing between them, because some rangefinders do that and it can waste you time. Have your angle displayed, all of that. But if you want to switch the ballistic data off, you can just press the mode button and you can go into line of sight mode, which is just straight range to the object, or horizontal component distance, which is, as it's named, the horizontal component of the distance to your target, which is what is the one that's important for calculating bullet drop.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a cheat code if you don't want to use ballistics. So we thought really carefully about what modes we wanted, how we wanted each button to work.
Yeah, icons.
It's complicated stuff, and we went back and forth
and
like
also,
crazy.
And also that's the thing also when you do something like that it's very important to get the thickness of the display right. Everything that's on there, like the circle or just the icons and everything, so it's not too big, take up too much, and then also it can't be too fine either, because then it's going to look a bit weird. So that goes a lot into just refining that, because once you put it into tooling and pay for it, that's it. And so if you're not happy with it, then you have to do another tooling, and it's very expensive. So you can't really. So that's why we were very meticulous when we did that in the design work, and also where to put the icons, where does it make sense. It took quite some time actually, and a lot of meetings to get that right. But now once we made it, it felt really good because we can use the same display in both rangefinders. And at the lower price point where the Helix 1500 is, that's very rare to have such a good display. Most of them in that price point is LCD and without ballistics. So that was just, it's been amazing that we were able to do that, a small hunter rangefinder with that.
Yeah, so in a sense, the little one benefited from the work that went into the big one.
Exactly.
And the scopes are the same. Sometimes you like, for example, the Theos, the technology used like to work on the Theos turrets could be used on the Nexus Gen 2.
Yes.
And future products.
Yes.
So yeah, that work, it's very expensive and time consuming to do it, but once it's done,
you have the base outline.
Apply it. You've done all the hard work, and it's about adapting that technology and refining it for whatever product you want. And I guess that brings us to sample number 4, which was the first one where we actually got to switch it on and check the display, which I'll be honest was a scary thing, because you just don't know how it's going to turn out.
No.
And if the display sucks, you put it into tooling all over again.
You spend a whole lot of money on just something that you weren't happy with.
Yeah.
And that can happen. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of letdowns. You get let down a lot of times before you reach the final product.
Yeah.
Because you have this idea and maybe it's very good on paper, but then you do that design change, and when it ends up being in your hands, you be like, nope, that wasn't right, and then you have to go back to a drawing board, change some things, and then it's also, you have to be very humble to realize that it's not only what I think. Like, you have to, like, that's why we send out our products to pro staff. We send it out to people we know that hunt a lot or shoot a lot to get their opinions. We get opinions within the team. there's a lot that goes into it. You have to be very open-minded to other people's ideas, because you might use it one way, but
Yeah.
it has to be able to be used in a lot of different ways, because all of our customers use it for different types of shooting or hunting or all of that stuff. So
Yep.
it's very important that we make a product that's very diverse and that can work for anyone.
Exactly. Yep. Thankfully, when we got our fourth sample, the actual line thicknesses and the display thickness and a lot of it was the way we wanted it.
Yeah.
The form factor and everything was quite close. There were a few things we decided to change on this one. The first was that although the thickness felt quite nice in our hands, we realized that having it thicker just for the sake of having it thicker might not be beneficial if there are people who want to put it mounted somewhere where they need it to be space efficient, like in a bag, pocket or whatever. So we ended up on the next prototype going a little bit smaller in size. The original name was BLR 2000, which stands for Ballistic Laser Ranger 2000. But when we started testing this first prototype, we realized that it got beyond 2000 meters quite easily.
Yes.
You know, before you make a product, you have estimations of how it's going to perform. Sometimes it doesn't meet your expectations, which can actually result in you canceling a project altogether, which we've done like quite recently with some stuff. It happens. Sometimes you think it's going to be good, it doesn't. Because you realize it's not good enough for the market.
Exactly.
And you have to be humble enough to say, you know, we spent money on this, but it's not worth it.
Because you also don't want to launch a product, then everyone's gonna look at that and be like, no, because if I'm gonna spend that money, I can buy this other thing that can range farther or have, better warranty or different material or anything like that. Then you need to put something out that's competitive, and you get a lot. We like at Element Optics, we want you to buy something that you get a lot value for money. That's basically what we want with every product. That you feel that okay, they haven't cut back on anything that's important, or at least at that price point.
Yeah. So it was encouraging to see that this exceeded our expectations in terms of its ranging capability. I've got photos taken through this exact sample from the top of a mountain, ranging rocks and stuff at well over 2,000 meters. So we ended up changing it from BLR 2000 to BLR 3000.
Yes.
Because to be honest, and with the naming as well, we wanted to make sure that the distance that we advertise is a realistic distance that's not measured off a mirror or something. It's it's got to be off an object that you're going to actually shoot at, like an animal or maybe a rock or a tree that you're ranging, or maybe a steel gong or whatever. But
so it has to be realistic, even though it can range further. We didn't want it to be like we name it 3,500, and the max someone can ever range is 2,500. We don't want that.
Yeah, you're not going to wrap a deer in aluminum foil before you shoot it.
No, exactly.
If it's a deer that you're ranging, you got to be able to range it. So we actually with later samples we're able to range stuff over 4,000 yards
when in the Utah.
US, which is thinner air, high altitude, so it's a bit further than what you might have in other conditions. But the point is, it can do more than what we even advertised. But that was encouraging. But there were other things that weren't working so well. There were some loose bits and pieces. There were some internal
we changed the
connections
design
and stuff that weren't as strong as we expected. The threads that held the battery cap in place weren't as strong as we wanted.
Yes, we changed some materials. We changed some internal.
Yeah, the finish. Yeah, the finish of the main plastic part here felt a bit cheap. The
rubber was not as grippy as we wanted it. It's too hard.
Yeah. So all these small things. Tripod mount wasn't quite as strong as we wanted it.
No.
Made a list of everything that we felt we could improve. Went back to the drawing board, and then along came the BLR 3000.
Yeah.
Skinnier than its predecessor, with a nicer texture, which is very close to what we ended up at the end.
Yeah, but the color was off still on the rubber.
Yeah, color was off, and we realized that the smooth rubberizing wasn't going to be textured enough for days when you're sweaty or you're wearing gloves or or you're getting rained on. So yeah, we ended up changing that, but this one essentially was just a step ahead of the previous one. Name change, refining the finish, strengthening up certain components, and then testing once again. This was the one that, funny story, we wanted to weather test.
Yeah, put it in the freezer.
So Shane, like, who's in Arizona, it's like, hey, I'll heat test it because it's summer here in Arizona, and
I'll put it in my car and see if it survives.
Leave it on the dashboard and see if it melts or not, and it survived that. But cold weather testing was particularly important because batteries in the cold,
and it was summer in Sweden, so
struggle. So I had this sample, so you guys couldn't chuck it out in the snow in Sweden. So I did the closest thing I could and stuck it in my freezer for a bit. And when it came out, it worked. But when I tried to range it, the lens started fogging up as it warmed up. And me being an idiot from a very warm country who doesn't understand how cold things work, tried to lick the lens and my tongue stuck to it, and I had to call my wife to come help me, like pour warm water on it and get my tongue unstuck. But those are
we do product testing very seriously at Element Optics.
That happen. Yeah. At this point, we also decided to change
the name.
Well, we changed the name, but we also changed we had an issue with the T-OLED display. Firstly, the brightness was a problem. Very difficult to get the brightness right because, like,
the programming and also getting it right to fit like it really low light conditions if you want to range something, and also in daytime conditions when it's very, very bright. So to have that in only 6 steps, to get that completely right is very hard.
Yeah. So between deciding on minimum, maximum brightness and all the steps in between, and testing, whether there's any glitches when you send a profile from the Element Ballistics app to the rangefinder. Does the same data show up when you range, let's say, 800 meters? Does it give you the same firing solution as if you put the same 800 meters in the app on the same profile?
Yeah.
And that sort of testing was very critical because what's the point of a ballistic rangefinder if it can't calculate
if it doesn't,
stuff?
Yeah.
But yeah, this one started working. Each prototype started working better and better. We ironed out all the bugs. We got the brightness levels right. And with another company releasing a BLR rangefinder at this point, we decided, you know what, let's be safe. Let's stay away from acronyms.
Yeah.
And let's keep this within a family of products we already have. So the little rangefinder, which was called the BLR 1500, changed to the Helix 1500, and this one changed to the Titan 3K.
And it felt pretty natural and it feels good to keep them in the different families because it gives you a good sense of the price point. And then Titan, it's big and bulky. Titan is our 34mm scope line, and then the other one is smaller, with the Helix being the 30mm scope line. It just felt natural. So I'm really happy how it turned out.
Absolutely. And this was the last of the smooth gray-skinned rangefinders that we did, because the next one,
it looked with
suddenly
that gray,
felt and looked so much better.
Yeah, with the gray, it looked too much like a toy. It looked like a kid's toy with the light gray rubber. For those who's not watching on the video, a light gray rubber, and then really bright red buttons on. So it was a good change. Yeah.
We eventually decided that a black or a very, very dark gray for the rubberized portion would probably just look a little bit better. The next prototype had the Titan 3K logo. Had to change that. We put a label on the back, which with all the certifications for the laser to make sure we meet all the legal standards, and essentially just once again started refining the brightness of the display, testing once again, make sure there's no bugs, make sure everything internally works. And I'm sure there's something else we did on this one.
We made sure that the tripod mount was strong enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I mean, at this point we were hoping that this would be the final prototype.
Yeah.
But when it arrives and you start testing it thoroughly and you find stuff that's not quite perfect, you have to make sure that you correct those small things and 100% test them before you start production. Because if you take a risk and say, I'm sure we can fix it later in the production run, that's asking for trouble. So we took things very slowly and carefully and went back to drawing board, and this is the final product.
Feels really good because it was everything that we wanted.
Brightness was perfect on this one.
Yes.
Display was super crisp. We fixed an issue with the different segments of the display being slightly different brightness levels.
Yes.
This one is perfectly even. We've sorted that out. And then we've also made the mode button black because the red one is the important one. That's the range button. But super excited about getting this out. We're launching this in about a month at SHOT Show. So at the time of filming this, no one else knows about it, which is a strange feeling, but we'll get there. And briefly, let's show you what, just because the product's done doesn't mean that the job is over, because you have to figure out final pricing. You've got to figure out what needs to be included with it.
Yes, like
packaging.
Exactly, like packaging, what's to be included, and like there's a lot of small things. Shipping, it contains a battery, so you have to think about shipping. How do you ship it? The accessories, like what should we include? Because everything that you add to a product is costing you some, and that's going to add to the retail price. And we don't want a customer to pay and to have a higher retail price for a bunch of stuff in there that no one's going to use anyway. So we try to make sure that everything that is included is something that you actually feel that you need. So you don't get, it's the worst thing when you get a product and feel that it's lacking something.
It's got a cheap bag.
Cheap bag, or I didn't get a lens cloth, or I didn't get this, or it would be neat to have this, and then you have to go out and buy it or take something else. We want to bring a product that's complete. We have everything that you feel that I'm set. You buy this, and then you don't need to go back to buy something else to make sure to complete the product. And sometimes that's pretty hard because there's so many different people gonna use this. So it's, of course, you can't please everyone all the time, but we try to do our best to make sure that once you buy an Element Optics product, you got value for money, and then you don't got a bunch of rubbish in that you didn't want, that you actually get
That's a good point.
The things that you need to use.
And thankfully everyone in our team is like active hunters, active shooters. We use these products every day. So we quickly pick up when stuff is a waste of time. And in the case of quality. In the case of the bag development, we knew we wanted some sort of bag for this rangefinder, but the first bag we made, we knew we wanted some sort of strap that can be disconnected. This one we weren't happy with. The material was absorbed moisture, which is a big no-no. And the logo didn't look good. The finish felt quite cheap. So we learned from that, and we
moved on. We
moved on, and this was quite close to finished product, but not quite. These guys, Henrik and Petter here in Sweden, who have more military experience than Shane and I, quickly said, hey, we should start looking at Molly. Because it's super versatile.
Versatile, and most guys since the Titan 3K is for like long range shooters or long range hunters, that type. You have a range bag, or you have a backpack, something with Molly on it. That's pretty common. So then you can easily attach it on the outside. You can use, since it's a bag, you can throw it in there. You can have it on your hip if you want to. You can have it on your like your binos bag. If you have Molly on it, you can
Yeah,
place it
it's
pretty much.
versatile, and if you really want, you can put it on your belt. Although
Yeah.
this is quite big, but
Yeah,
I'm sure
it's-
there's some people who will do that. Space on the side here for a wind meter, like a Kestrel or whatever you want, basically.
Yeah.
We wanted this mechanism of opening with a
strap.
elasticated hook, because you might only have one hand to get it open. You don't
Yeah.
want noisy Velcro.
Exactly.
And
you want it to be
a
repeatable.
relatively padded inside. And this was close, but we didn't quite like the fully black color.
Yeah.
It absorbs heat if you leave it out in the sun. And it's also,
With a few minor things. Like
few minor things.
Like
The logo we didn't like, the netting we didn't like. So we ended up redesigning this, and the final product looks like this. We've got similar design, but we've got a gray and olive green color, which I think looks amazing. We've got the same Molly, but on the side here we've got a
mesh pocket.
like a stretchy material
Yeah.
pocket, which is just a bit more robust and looks better than the other mesh. And yeah, there's your Titan 3K inside. So
Yeah.
it's always rewarding to get that final product where you know all the work is done.
Yeah, now
it's
it's
time
just-
to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that was, yeah, we went out this week here in Sweden, and
used it.
we filmed an episode for the Element Global Hunting Series,
Yes.
using the Helix 1500 and some other new products. And yeah, it was fun for me to experience a different style of hunting, but I
Yeah.
think even more satisfying to have products that we've worked so hard on
Yeah.
actually being used in the real world and performing the way they should.
We keep on adding products to the lineup, and that feels like now we added the rangefinders as well. Is one more piece to the puzzle, and it feels really good that now we're moving over to the other segments as well. So you can get, if you want to have everything element, you should be able to have everything element. So that feels really good, and it feels good for me as well. Then I don't have another brand of rangefinders.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very rewarding, and
Absolutely.
that's why we have stayed so motivated. Like it's so worth it to see the final product. It keeps us excited to keep on doing this, and yeah, I think all of us are being honest when we say we absolutely love our jobs.
Yes, absolutely.
It's stressful at times, but when the final product comes out, it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we're gonna end it there.
Yeah.
But I hope that gives you guys some
Insight.
appreciation, and when you pick up that rangefinder, you know what's gone into it.
Yeah, exactly. And then it takes a lot of time and work to, especially when you had run different projects at the same time, to make, and also to have that attention to detail that goes into it to make sure that it's as good as we absolutely can make it for the end user, and then also when we get feedback on social media or just on trade shows, or it's so rewarding when you put so much time and effort into a project to hear what you think about it. So please just go on our social medias or everything, comment, or just let us know ideas, as we said before, things that you feel that's lacking in our lineup. Just let us know, and I can't say they will be there tomorrow, but it's good to know that, we need this, or maybe if you have a good idea, just write it out there or send an email or anything, because we're really open to making new things that stand aside from what's out there. We take a good look in the market and see where there's a gap.
Exactly.
And try to fill that.
Not everything makes it past the drawing board, but when we see a gap and when we know that we're capable of doing something great in that gap, we're always willing to go for it. So
Absolutely.
check out our website. We've got these products up there if you want to check the specs out or learn more about how they work, what they're capable of. We put the very detailed instruction manuals as PDF downloads, and we publish all those resources like how-to videos of how to use them, what's in the box videos, and full product overviews. It's all there, and we are always willing to answer your questions. If you're on YouTube, you're welcome to ask a question down below. Henrik or I can get you it. But guess we're going to call it there. Thanks for listening
Yeah, thank
and
you.
or watching, and we'll see you in the next one.